Welcome to the TriStar Podcast, where martial arts meets family, faith, and personal growth. Join Professor Brumitt and Professor Beane as they share stories from the mat, lessons from life, and tools to help you and your family live like black belts on and off the mat. It's time to train the body, sharpen the mind, and strengthen the spirit right here on the TriStar Podcast.
If you're a parent, you've felt it. You're trying to pick the right thing for your child. Sports, dance, music, gymnastics, STEM clubs. Every option sounds good, and every option promises a benefit. But here's the real question. Are we just trying to fill time, or are we trying to build a kid? Today, we're going to talk about something different, and really the difference between doing and becoming, and why martial arts, when it's taught right, can become a training tool for life. And if you're brand new to the TriStar family, maybe you're in a trial right now, this episode will be the thing that will help you to understand that stepping into this realm of martial arts and what to watch for, and even what to do next.
Yeah, and we're kind of biased when we talk about martial arts, but it's so true. And, maybe let's kind of draw a distinction here with what we're talking about. So an activity versus what we would call becoming. And so let me kind of define it maybe in a different way here. So an activity, I think you would agree with me, is something that you do. It's something that you start, you stop, and then you move on. But martial arts is, again, when you had already said it, when it's taught the right way, really isn't just something that you do. It's actually something that you become. And there's the big difference in that, right?
Yes, right. Yeah, and martial arts, I think, is the standout in that, because all the other activities are just things that you do, but it's not something that you become. You get in the martial arts, you get to become a martial artist.
And you carry those qualities with you into every single thing that you do. So an activity ends when class is over, because most parents are looking for activities, quote unquote activities. So an activity ends when the class is over, but martial arts continues in how you actually present yourself, how you actually live your life. So activity, simplest terms, do, finish, move on. Martial arts, though, is really practice it, live it, and then become it. And might I say that, and I'm not tooting my own horn, because you had a tremendous part to play in this, but and you had tremendous parents as well. But you, and this is what we point to parents, you are a product of martial arts being taught the right way. And I know that sounds, and I shouldn't be the one that says it. You should, if you believe it, maybe I should have said, hey, maybe you should say this. But you see where I'm going with that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so especially if you're a parent, you're going to the trial right now, take a look at the instructors, how they're interacting with the kids, and are they relaying or do they have the qualities that you would like in your kid as they grow up, right? That's kind of the roadmap. Like that's the end, right? You get to see especially again, as you're there in the trial, you get to look at the end product of what your kid perhaps will become at the end of all of this. And then you are willing to put the effort in, not just to continue into the program, but to actually put some time, energy, and effort into the program outside of the class. Again, because this isn't something that ends when class is over. Most programs are just activities. But again, like you said, martial arts, when it's taught the right way, is a vehicle for growth. And as you're watching the classes, look at the instructors, because that's the end for what the goal would be. And again, end is kind of a weird term, because it's not really the end. It's just where we are on our own roadmap.
And I would kind of insert that it's not only the end, because I get what you're talking about, but you can also see the middle, because you can look at some of the other students as well. So the other students that you're training with, but your child is training with, but also the other leaders, what we call storm team members, that are in helping out classes that aren't even instructors yet. You can take a look at the middle of what your child is going to look like, not just the end, but you can kind of see that whole progression as we go through it. And really, here's why I think, and I guess we should say this, why we exist, because we don't and I correct me if I'm wrong because I'm biased, but we don't just look at TriStar as another activity, right? We're a character development studio that uses a martial art, the martial arts as a vehicle. I kind of always said that, if it were a piece of like let's say a cake, where the martial art part, I mean, the kicking and punching is just the icing on the cake. It's all of the layers of the cake that are the most important pieces, I think, in the program.
Well, and unlike, let's say, standard or martial arts by default, or other martial arts schools, sort of say, we have, okay, so martial arts by default has discipline and respect and coordination and all of those kind of character traits already in there. However, what we've done that is different is we went through and strategically designed our program. So those are the characteristics and development aspects and output that are not just hopeful to happen, but does happen because of how we've designed the program. Like you said, the martial arts is just the icing on the cake. It's all of the rest of it, the foundation for everything else. And again, none of that is there by happenstance at our school. All of it is strategically designed so those things happen by purposeful design and intention as opposed to by accident.
Yeah, and of course, your child's going to learn how to kick and punch and block and learn self-defense. But the reality is, though, the confidence that they're going to gain, the discipline, the focus, the respect, the leadership, the resilience, the grit. And let's kind of just say this up front, because we already stated the fact that not all our martial arts schools are the same. So the uniform doesn't actually guarantee the outcome. It's the system that does. And I would also say the people that are directing the system, because, look, you could, not to boil this down to McDonald's, but McDonald's has a system, but you could have really bad service at McDonald's. And even though they have a system that you're supposed to follow, also the people that are inside the system, but the system has to be there, and then the people inside the system as well.
Right. And, I think most parents probably are not laying awake at night thinking, man, I hope my kid gets a medal. What they're thinking or hoping is that I hope my kid learns to listen. And we've talked about this on past episodes, but I hope that I'm parenting my kid in such a way that I'm allowing them to grow up into a fully formed adult that can do things on their own. I hope that they can handle frustration. I hope that they can believe in themselves. I hope that they can stand up to pressure, peer pressure, or outside work pressures. Lots of activities help these things, but most activities are really only strongest in one or two lanes: athletic development or artistic development, academic development, social development. Those are kind of the kind of broad terms there. So the question becomes, which option helps you or your child grow in most of those areas in the most consistent way?
Yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, that's the key, right? Is the consistent ways, not just one or two lanes, but to consistently, make that happen. And by the way, I want the parents, because they come in with a lot of assumptions about martial arts. And so what we've done is we've put together the 5 biggest misconceptions into a simple free guide. And we're going to, well, it'll make your decision process a lot easier, but we're going to share with you a little bit on how you can, or actually in a little bit, how you can get that guide so that you can have access to that. So we're not here bashing other activities, because I think other activities to a certain point are important. Team sports can be amazing. Dance can be amazing. Music as well can be amazing. But martial arts, and we fall back to the same phrase, martial arts done right has a unique ability to really be able to develop the whole person, like the whole child at the same time. So if you can think of it like real quickly, physical fitness, mental development, emotional development, your child's character, life skills, social skills. I mean, the physical part, of course, balance, coordination, flexibility, speed, timing, strength, all of those. The mental part, the focus, the listening, the do it the first time skills, right? Even sequencing, being able to, do things in sequence And you brought up the fact that, we're raising, and you've talked about this before in other podcasts, we're raising adults. It's not just that we're parenting children. So what about the emotional side, the self-control, handling frustration, staying calm under pressure, all of those things?
Right. That's not to mention, the life skills, goal setting, accountability, conflict management, social, like you said, the mentorship, positive peers, belonging, right? All of those things are part of the whole kid and the whole child, and hopefully the foundation for what they'll be when they grow up. And, martial arts it's not just an exercise. It's not just self-defense. It's a structured environment where kids practice doing hard things over and over until they become the type of person or type of kid who can handle doing hard things.
Yes. And boy, isn't that needed? It was needed when we were growing up, but it's really needed as well now. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. Maybe even more so now than it was when we were kids.
Yeah. And, I hate to put it on society that way, because I think every generation says, yeah, we were tougher than the last generation. So I think part of that is just as we get older, we think that we're tougher. but either way, it's still a necessity for our kids to be able to do that. So let's respectfully kind of, go through some other sports, other activities, if you will. And so, martial arts versus team sports. Are team sports good? Sure. They teach kids to be a part of a bigger thing. They're a part of a team. So there's cooperation, there's shared goals, there's friendships as well. But not every single kid on, a team sport actually gets to perform on that team sport. Some kids actually have to sit out because they're quote unquote not as good, or they get overlooked because other kids are better than them. And sometimes that will affect, well, I should say oftentimes that affects their confidence. I can remember I was horrible at baseball, yet my parents made me do it, and I was so scared of the ball. It was not an activity for me, especially once I got old enough to understand that, man, I really did not like this. But in the martial arts program, every kid gets to play the game. Every kid gets to be in every single class, and every kid actually gets to progress and become better themselves. Yes, they're a part of a team, but it's also an individual sport, and they're becoming, better at it as they move forward. And so that's my take on team sports. Did you do any team sports?
I did not. There was always like talks about going for t-ball or baseball when I was younger. But I, to my memory, I don't think we ever actually made it to the tryouts or signups or whatever it is. So martial arts is really, and I also didn't grow up in a very sports heavy family. So martial arts was my sport.
Yeah, I just didn't remember. Or I should say I couldn't remember that you were in any other sports because like you lived at the studio.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we talked about that's martial arts versus a team sport, but martial arts versus dance, dance is incredible. Dance has body awareness, flexibility, performance, confidence, the ability to express yourself. Martial arts adds something different, the confidence that comes from the capability, not just I feel confidence, but I can do hard things. I can handle myself. And those things are close, but they are different once you see what the other side actually is.
Yeah, and look, dance is beautiful, and the hey, full transparency, your girls do dance.
They do,
right?
Yes.
And think about some of the things that you see that overlap from what we're doing that dance does, but you can also see things that we're doing that dance does not do. So like you can actually speak to that. Keegan did like hip hop when he was younger. Taylor, before I ever married my wife, she did dance, but I was never a part of any of that. And so I don't have, that lane at all, but you get to see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a different world. And again, there are some similar counterparts, but there's definitely let's say maybe a few Lego blocks that could be added that would make it even better that martial arts already has by default.
And look, music. So martial arts versus music lessons. Now, listen, when Keegan was younger, I don't want to say I told Debbie, that sounds like I was a dictator, but I basically kind of like said, hey, look, I want Keegan to learn how to play piano because I knew that, almost every single person that I knew that knew how to play music and read music. And I knew that piano was very, very difficult. Not that I'm musically inclined at all. I just knew what it did for your brain. Right. And so, yeah, we put him into that. He learned how to play piano. He also learned how to then go into other instruments. But music teaches that discipline, that patience. It's great for the brain because it is using all parts of the brain. You know, but martial arts, I think, also trains us to focus as well. And what I mean by that, we've got to also focus in motion. We've got we do things at high energy level. We got to learn how to focus while there's a bunch of activities that are going on at the same time. Under duress, we have to learn how to focus. And so, in as much as music is important, obviously, because I put Keegan all the way through it. In fact, he was in music all the way up and through the end of high school. He didn't do it in college. That's how important I thought it was. But there are some overlaps, but there are things that it doesn't do.
Right. So moving right along, martial arts versus gymnastics. Gymnastics produces, some really incredible athletes in strength and flexibility.
Oh my gosh.
Flexibility. You have wonderful discipline there. Martial arts tends to be a longer runway, right? Kids start where they are and they grow at their own pace. They keep training for years sometimes. And as you're training in the martial arts, you have that goal. And most of the time, the goal is to get that black belt, especially before you are a black belt, is to get that black belt. And then you get to move at your own pace. Sometimes you make the belt test. Sometimes you don't make the belt test because whatever is going on. You make it to that goal and then you realize, oh, wow, I'm here. I made it. And then it's like, I always think about this, like as you're climbing a mountain, you think you're at the top of the mountain and you turn around to realize you're at like the very first plateau in the mountain. And like the mountain is for miles and miles, almost endlessly up from that first degree black belt. But that is often the goal. And to see that, and we get to have this, we see the growth from the students from when they start from where they get to on black belt. And then we know we can take that. Okay, there's 2 more years to get to second degree. Oh man, I can't imagine this kid's going to be so good by the time they get second degree or third degree or however far we get to teach them.
Well, and that is how do I want to say this? There is and again, I'm biased. There's more of an opportunity to learn a lot more things because, in as much as we get them up to first degree black belt, that is like beginner information. And then we start unlocking doors that they didn't even know existed. And so, yes, in as much as gymnastics does produce these tremendous athletic individuals, I feel like you could only do at gymnastics for so long. Now there's people that do it forever, but if you think about like where we're at in our abilities and training now, do we get into, sparring matches like we used to when we were younger? No. But, now that we're on the ground and we're grappling, like that has a lot more longevity than standing up and doing the sparring that we did when we were younger. And so, and then the ground game, like we just talked about recently, the ground game is so much more complex than the stand-up game. And so there's just so much more physically, I think, and mentally to learn through the martial arts. And then how about, of course, academics is important. You have like the STEM club and chess and debate club and all those things. Those have value, right? Those can be amazing for your child's mind. But a lot of kids don't necessarily need, more information. They need better self-control, better follow through. They need a stronger belief in themselves so that they can actually do hard things. And, quite honestly, some of those skills, they start to develop once they get into the storm team and is introduced to them in our leadership team as well.
Right. And you think that martial arts doesn't have communication skills kind of built in there, although we do have areas where you have to give a speech in order to get to the next belt, or you have a paper you have to write. You have all of these things that are not thought of as martial arts skills, but we've strategically designed the program so that by the time you get to black belt, and especially as you continue to move on past that, you really get to pick up all of these very key things that will help you tremendously in life as you grow and move. Even if you're already a teenager or an adult, again, these are still skills that anybody can learn and will help you tremendously as you move forward.
Yeah, and we brought this up before, but maybe we should kind of dive into it real quick. Some key distinctions here that, not all martial arts schools are the same. And so while martial arts can be the best choice, but only really a school that's built on purpose. And so some of the variables or outcomes that we think that are really important is a consistent curriculum, like a real plan to develop your child. Now, I'm just going to say this, that a lot of schools have a curriculum. And so if you were to ask a school, do you have a curriculum that you follow? Every school has a curriculum. And what I mean by that is, yeah, they're going to learn, low block here, middle punch here, front kick there, this form there, this self-defense there. That's all well and good. But how do you translate any of that into making a whole child? See, that's the real plan. And so they need a quality and consistent curriculum. There needs to be coaching that is how to actually be able to interact with a child so that they are instructed, yes, but also encouraged, disciplined when needed. And then how about, and you're a big proponent of this, is the culture, the standards, right? The not only just the encouragement, but the standards and why those are important.
Right, because if there's no standards in place and everybody just goes to the next rank because that's what the time schedule says, or because so and so paid whatever, then all of that is meaningless, right? Because if you just make it to the next thing, whether you do the work or not, then it doesn't matter. So having a culture where doing hard work is the
culture.
It is the culture, right? That's a necessity. That is the standard. You are going to put the work in order to make it to the next rank. And if you don't put all the work in on that go round, okay, that's fine. We'll work on it. We'll get an opportunity to go through it again, no problem. And then we'll try it again. But if you don't have those standards and everybody gets it, then the outcome is there's no outcome. There's no outcome. Everybody you might as well just go buy a black belt from the store and, okay, here you go, Johnny. Good job.
No, Amazon. It's much quicker.
Amazon. I see. Yeah. Instant gratification.
So, yes. And look, some other things that need to be in place is safety. So obviously some control, supervision, rules that kind of goes along with the culture, but a little bit different. And then, leadership and mentorship, which is extremely important. So, I mean, that's why years ago we had implemented the leadership team. And then the storm team, so that we had these qualities that were going to be, and you had brought it up in the beginning, put in there on purpose so that we could create these mini human beings, eventual adults, with these qualities intact.
And for somebody that might be listening that doesn't know what a leadership or storm team are, can you give them the rundown what that is and what to expect if or when they get there?
Yeah. So real quickly, leadership is something that you have an opportunity to be presented after you've been in the program for about a year. Usually it's about 9 months to a year, even a year in 3 months, but only when you have met some of those qualifications. So to your point that, obviously they've passed their test, they know their material, they're disciplined, they're respectful, and we see that they can do hard things, because in the leadership program, there's going to be more material that they're going to be required to learn, memorize, and then also put into action into their daily lives. And so with that, we don't want to give somebody the opportunity to do leadership just because, one, they could afford it, or two, because they want it, but they really have to, we have to be able to see that they can move into that next level. And then, of course, we have a structured way on how they get in. They have an interview process. They have to get character witnesses, the whole deal. But then from there, we have our storm team program. And those are the individuals, one, they have to have been in the leadership and their current leadership member, but now they want to take on a role of being a helper in class and learn how to help and maybe potentially be a paid instructor at some point. And so we have again, a structured way that they get presented that material in order to be involved with that. And there's an interview and character witnesses and a whole process they have to go through. But, look, if the culture that you're looking at in the school is chaotic, if the curriculum is random, if the character skills aren't being taught on purpose, then you might not get the results that you are hoping for your child. And so there are some, really maybe some red flags that you need to be looking for out of a program when you're doing that. And so that way you don't, because look, I don't want parents to get burned, going in and thinking that they're going to get one thing out of a program and then they don't get that thing that they were looking for out of the program. And so that's why we put together that guide, which in a little bit, I'll give you the information on how to get it. But I have in there information. We put information in there on some red flags that you can quickly scan through and make a quick decision on whether this is the right school, or program for your child.
And we talked about the red flags, but how about some green flags, right? So if you're in a TriStar Martial Arts, if you're one of our trial students right now, here are some green flags that we want you to be watching for, because these are the things that are actually going to help to produce confidence, discipline, especially over time. Then number one here is the clear structure and expectations, right? Those are key. Structure isn't strict. Structure is really what creates safety and confidence. And so parents, as you're watching, here's some specific things to watch for. Watch for routines. Listen for clear instructions. Watch the kids responding quickly. Look how the transitions in between the skills and drills that are happening out on the floor are calm. They're not chaotic. They move from one thing to the next as if it's a system.
Yeah, and the second green flag is, that corrections are firm and respectful and consistent. And so, you're going to hear the coaching is, it's like what we like to say to our staff is it's friendly, firm, and fair. It's the 3 F's. It's friendly, firm, and fair. And so it's going to be respectful. It's going to be consistent. There's not going to be any shaming or yelling. There's going to be no chaos at all. We get compliments all the time on how our instructors are able to I'll use the term, quote unquote, handle a kid or talk to a kid. And often is the time that we get compliments going, man, I didn't realize how young that instructor was, because the way that they handle things, it's almost like they're already, well into their adulthood. But it's going to be a calm tone. It's going to be specific feedback. There's going to be quick resets, and then the encouragement after the correction as well. I mean, that's why when we talked about this in other podcasts, but praise, correct, praise, because we are going to correct them, but we're also going to encourage them at the end of it.
Absolutely. And another green flag to watch out for is how every child is being engaged in the class. No one is disappearing into the background, right? Even the quiet kids are coached. They're taught. We are interacting with them. High energy kids get guided. What to watch for. So as you're trying to watch the class and pick this out, watch the instructor scanning the room, calling out the kids by name, not hey you. It's by name, right? Because that nobody wants to be called hey you. We use their names. All of those things again are and we talked about this. The leadership program, the Storm Team program. All of our instructors have gone through the leadership program. All of our instructors have gone through the Storm Team program. So they've all been trained how to do all of these things. So they're not happening by accident. We have a system, we have a protocol in place so that our instructors are doing these things on purpose with guided intention.
Exactly. And then the fourth green flag is safety and control that is visible, like you can actually see it. So safety isn't just like the poster on the wall. It really is a culture. So control matters, just as much as power matters, but control matters. And so you're going to see how the supervision, the clear rules, the appropriate conduct, that's being taught to the kids and then imparted, meaning that then we expect them to be able to control themselves and be have the ability to be able to confidence and the safety and the structure for themselves.
Another green flag to watch for is how progress is earned through effort and standards, right? Standards is something I talked about already, but the best confidence is earned through confidence, right? You have a back catalog of all the hard things that you've already done. You can look back and say, look, I've already done all of these really tough, challenging things. I can be confident to stand my ground and face whatever this is in front of me so that I can go and do this as well, right? With this, you can watch for some clear expectations. Kids are working towards the goal, and we're praising the praise happens, and praise is tied not necessarily to the outcome, but praise is tied to the effort that is put forth. So it's not just, hey, you won, good job, but it's you guys did an awesome job. Whether you won or lost, that's not the end goal, right? That's not what we're often talking about. It's you guys did a good job working towards this outcome, this effort. Your effort was really good here.
Yeah, and I will say as an aside note, just to parents that are in the trial, when you see your kid doing, out, they're going to be out on the floor and they're going to keep looking back at you. And most parents think that they're looking at you, and not being focused. They really just want to see you be excited for them as they are excited out on the floor. And so, just when they come out of class, don't bring that up. Praise the effort. Meaning, man, I liked how you were looking your instructor in the eye, and behavior that's rewarded will be repeated. So I just wanted to say that because I love how we don't just praise, wow, that's an awesome technique. Very seldom. I mean, yes, we tell them that it's a good technique when it's a good technique, but moreover than that, we are, like you said, we're praising the effort because that's really what we want. Mm-hmm. And then the last green flag really is like the character development. So meaning character development is taught intentionally, not accidentally. A lot of places hope that character is going to happen, but a great program actually teaches it on purpose. And so, and you're going to see instructors naming the trait. So what I mean by that is, man, that was respectful of you doing X, Y, or Z. Or I loved how you controlled yourself in this situation. Or, man, we probably are not going to use the word perseverance, but we're going to say, man, I love how hard you work trying to get that down. And so we're going to make sure that we coach them in the moment, not just the technique, because that's really what is going to last. Yeah, the technique is good, but that moment, that effort is going to be so important. And so kids being praised for their effort, their attitude, that's what you're going to see. And also their choices. It's not just a performance. We want to build these human beings that are going to be adults at some point. Now, I know I keep talking about this, but if you want a printable version of this free guide, it's how to choose the right martial arts school for your child. It includes the 5 biggest misconceptions, that you can scan through that real quick, the 6 green flags that we talked about, also the 6 red flags, but also 5 questions to ask any school owner before that you join that school. And you can download it on our website at tristarkarate.com. And then it's /choose martial arts arts being plural, and then school. So tristarkarate.com /choose martial arts school. And of course, choose martial arts schools each have a hyphen in between it.
And, if you're listening to this, we'll, of course, have that link in the description or show notes for this episode as well. Now, as you are going through the trial program, what can you expect from TriStar? Well, we want to make this super practical. If you're in the trial, here's what you should expect, okay? And really what we would like you to be paying attention to, because I think that's important, because oftentimes as the students out on the floor, they're kind of confused of what to be paying attention for, but the parents also as well. So let me give this to you here. Week number 1, comfort and structure. Your child's going to be learning the routine, the rules, and how we kind of do things, right? You may see some small wins, maybe some better listening, some better posture, more willingness to try new things. In week number 2, you'll have confidence and ownership. With this, you'll start to see your child start to anticipate some expectations, take pride in doing things the right way. They'll begin to connect effort with progress. Parents, your job isn't to pressure. Your job is to notice growth, celebrate effort, and of course, keep the routine consistent. That is probably the biggest thing for now.
Yeah. And I will add on to this is like, look, if you have a trait that you're looking for out of your child, see if you can see it happening out on the floor. And that could be with another student. That also could be with one of the staff members, like, the storm team members, a leadership member, even the instructor. And the reason or one of the instructors, the reason I bring that up is because not all kids come in with those skills. So if you're looking for confidence, look out on the floor for other kids or the storm team members or the instructors that you go, yeah, that person exhibits confidence. Because I will tell you, 9 times out of 10, they didn't come in with some of the skills that you see that they have now. And so that's another thing that I'm going to just draw your attention to be looking out for as well.
Now, of course, as you go through the program, you'll have the trial program, then you move to the end of the trial. And can you share the 3 questions that really we should be asking or that the parents want to ask at the end of the trial?
Yeah, I think yes, and they're super simple. So, do you trust the instructors that my child is working with? Do you trust these instructors that they're going to have my child's best interest in mind, especially their character. And then, do you see the character development skills that are being demonstrated, like I already said, out on the floor happening? And if you're able to see those things out on the floor with other students, then ask yourself the question, do you think that, your child can actually pick up on those things and learn those? I would say the other thing though, too, is my child more confident and coachable now that they've, had a few classes? And then I know I put in maybe 4 questions here, but do or can I see this system being able to shape my child to become the person that I would like to see them become over the next few years? Because it doesn't just happen overnight. It takes a while.
Right. And if you're going through the program or the trial program particularly, and you are comparing multiple schools, I want to give you a couple, maybe 5 is the term, the number we'll use, but I'm going to give you a couple of questions that you can hopefully use to guide your answer. And listen, and I think the answers for these will reveal really fast whether a program is built for your child or not, right? Because you're not just buying the classes, you're choosing the environment, the environment that your kid is going to be in. And that environment is, of course, so important. The culture is so important as it pertains to shaping the kids.
Yeah, that environment, like you said, totally shapes your kid. And those 5 questions, like we said, will be inside of that guide. You're going to be able to get that. And so I will say, look, if you haven't started a trial yet, and you'd love to see if this is something that your child would benefit from, come on in, give it a try. Our trials really are designed to allow you to be able to experience the culture, the coaching, the interaction, the structure, and then you can make the best decision on whether if this is the right thing for your child. And of course, you could always visit our website, tristarkarate.com, and whatever trial we have at that time, you could reach out to us, give us a call, 815-932-5425 as well. And to your point, if you're finishing a trial right now, the next step really is simple. Keep the momentum going, keep the consistency going like you had spoke about before, because that's where the real transformation happens. That's where we can help, at that time, we can help you choose the best membership that is right for your family. And then we'll map out what the next milestone and milestones, plural, are going to look like so that we can keep your child growing as we move forward.
Right. And again, we'll have that link so you can download that free guide. It'll be in the show notes of how to choose the right martial arts school. Be sure to grab that. So keep that, you can put it right on your phone, and then you can make it really easy as you're looking at the program and make sure that it is a good fit for you and for your family.
Yeah. And look, just real quickly before we close, the most important thing to understand is that we're not raising kids that can just do things. right? We want to raise a child who can become an adult, a confident, disciplined, respectful, resilient adult. And that's what we're building at TriStar Martial Arts Academy. One class, one lesson, one small win at a time, because those wins do stack.
Thanks for joining the TriStar podcast, where black belts begin at home. Connect with our community by visiting tristarkarate.com. Follow us on social media and share this episode with a family who's ready to grow stronger together. Until next time, stay focused, stay faithful, and keep training like a champion.